The greatest battles are not fought with swords or guns, but with ideas. The war is not between nations, but between truth and illusion. Throughout history, the most dangerous truths have not been those wielded by armies, but those spoken by individuals. Socrates was executed for corrupting the youth of Athens, not through violence, but through questioning. Jesus was crucified not because he sought political power, but because his presence alone was a threat to the existing system. The biblical story of the Tower of Babel tells of humanity's attempt to reach the heavens, only to be stopped, not by force, but by confusion. There's a pattern here. Every time people come together to reach for something higher, something intervenes to scatter them. Every time a voice rises to challenge the status quo, power structures react by silencing it. But what if the real consequence of suppression is not control, but resistance? What if those in power are caught in a cycle where every attempt to maintain control only guarantees their eventual loss of it? The Tower of Babel is often seen as a myth, but its lesson is more relevant now than ever. In this story, humanity was united, speaking one language, working together toward a common goal, to build a tower that reached the heavens. Their cooperation made them powerful. They were unstoppable. But rather than using force to stop them, God simply divided their language. Suddenly, they could no longer understand each other. Without communication, their unity crumbled, and the project failed. Whether the story is literal or symbolic, its meaning is clear. Control is not maintained through brute force, but through division. Power structures do not need to physically stop people. They simply need to make sure they are speaking different languages, whether through ideology, misinformation, or social fragmentation. Today, the same principle applies. The most effective way to neutralize a movement is not to destroy it, but to confuse it, to distort language, redefine terms, and create internal conflict so that people cannot work together. The question is, does this truly prevent progress, or does it merely delay the inevitable? The Tower of Babel was doomed from the start, not because humanity was wrong to seek something higher, but because they built it for the wrong reasons. The story tells us that people wanted to make a name for themselves. Their ambition was not to honor truth or unite in love, but to glorify their own power. This is the flaw that runs through every attempt of control. Whether through political dominance, religious authority, or ideological supremacy, when a structure is built on vanity, it inevitably collapses. When leaders build institutions based on their own need for control rather than on the pursuit of truth, those institutions become unstable. They cannot stand against time because they are not rooted in anything real. The suppression of knowledge is, in many ways, a modern Tower of Babel, a structure built not to uplift humanity, but to maintain the power of those who fear losing control. But if a tower built on vanity falls, what would happen if we built one on truth? Jesus was not crucified because he raised an army. He did not seek to overthrow the Roman Empire. His crime was something far more dangerous. He taught people that they did not need the existing system to know God. He challenged the authority of religious leaders by exposing their hypocrisy, and in doing so, he made himself a threat. Socrates faced a similar fate. He did not lead a revolution or incite violence. He simply asked questions. He encouraged people to think for themselves, to challenge their assumptions, and to seek truth beyond tradition. For this, he was sentenced to death. In both cases, the ruling powers believed that eliminating these men would eliminate their influence, but history has shown the opposite. Their deaths did not erase their ideas, it immortalized them. The very act of suppression ensured that their teachings would spread further than they ever could have while alive. This is the paradox of control. Those who try to suppress truth often end up amplifying it. The more something is forbidden, the more people seek it out. The more something is hidden, the more valuable it becomes. There's a common belief among those in power that control equals stability. If certain ideas are suppressed, the logic goes, then people will forget them. But suppression does not erase, it fuels curiosity. Consider the way information spreads online. When platforms like YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook restrict certain topics, they do not stop people from discussing them. Instead, they create an air of mystery. People begin to wonder, why is this being censored? Why don't they want me to know? The attempt to bury information only makes it more desirable. Governments throughout history have fallen into this trap. The Soviet Union collapsed not because of external invasion, but because it suppressed free thought to the point that its own people could no longer sustain the illusion. The Catholic Church once banned books, only to make them more sought after. Every empire that has relied on suppression has eventually faced the same fate. The ideas they feared most did not disappear. They became stronger. The lesson from Babel, Jesus, and Socrates is not that truth can be stopped. It is that truth must be integrated. Those who hold power must understand that the real influence does not come from control, but from wisdom. The most dangerous leaders are those who cling to outdated methods of suppression, believing that they can stop progress through force. But the wisest leaders understand that truth, once revealed, cannot be erased. They do not resist change, they guide it. They do not fear new ideas, they find ways to integrate them. This is the key difference between true power and fragile control. True power does not fear opposition, it absorbs and redirects it. Fragile control fights against the inevitable and, in doing so, ensures its own destruction. If the original Tower of Babel collapsed because it was built on vanity, then the only way forward is to build a new tower, one rooted in love and truth. This does not mean constructing a literal tower, but by creating a foundation of knowledge that unites rather than divides. Such a tower cannot be built by force, nor can it be imposed from above. It must be built through understanding, by those who seek truth, not for personal gain, but for the good of all. Jesus embodied this ideal. His message was not about domination, but about inner transformation. He did not seek to control people, but to awaken them. The true path to power is not through suppression, but through the courage to let go of control and trust in truth itself. In every era, those who seek truth must make a choice. Do they fight the system head on, or do they work within it to introduce higher understanding? And those in power must ask themselves, do they cling to outdated control methods, or do they evolve with reality? The Tower of Babel teaches that division is the easiest way to prevent progress. Jesus and Socrates show that suppression backfires. Modern censorship proves that the attempt to silence people only strengthens their resolve. The question is no longer whether suppression works. It doesn't. The real question is, what comes next? Will those in power continue the cycle of fear, or will they recognize that real stability comes not from silencing truth, but from understanding it? Will the truth seekers continue to fight against the system, or will they find a way to bridge the gap between knowledge and power? The answers to these questions will determine the future, not just for individuals, but for civilization itself.